Have you ever been completely in the moment, in the thing you were doing, aware of each aspect of the activity, and not thinking about anything else? Maybe it was watching a sunrise, holding a sleeping child, walking in the woods, or taking a sip of coffee that was just the right temperature and you could feel it enter your mouth and warm you on a cool spring morning. The moments tend to be fleeting when we are not lost in memories or in planning for the future. Whether with anxiety or wistfulness, we are usually not here, not now. We get through this moment in anticipation of what is coming up next. Then we get to that awaited next moment. We are then already thinking about the thing after that. This particular year, there is much to be anxious about, and there is much to look forward to in the coming weeks and months. We have often been not too pleased with the now of our lives, and that is understandable. In the miracle of mindfulness, Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh tells many stories about people he has encountered during his life as a monk and teacher. In one such anecdote, he tells the story of his friend Jim coming to visit. During the visit, Jim asks to wash the dishes. Thich Nhat Hanh replies, "Go ahead, but if you wash the dishes, you must know the way to wash them." To which Jim replies, "Come on, you think I don't know how to wash the dishes?" Thich Nhat Hanh answers with, "There are two ways to wash the dishes. The first is to wash the dishes in order to have clean dishes. And the second is to wash the dishes to wash the dishes." There are many things in this life that we must do: chores, work, getting the groceries, and each of them could be done while we think about what comes next, or while we distract ourselves with thoughts about anything other than what we are currently doing. But we can also approach the simplest things with attention, which helps us to keep our attention on other aspects of life, too. There are many contemplative practices in religious tradition and in non-religious culture, too. Meditation while seated or even while walking. Yoga is also a form of meditation when done in ways that focus the mind on the body's movements rather than exercise. Prayer can be a contemplative practice. Singing, chanting, and reciting words all can be contemplative. Writing can be a contemplative practice, as can playing an instrument. Walking in the woods under a canopy of leaves can be contemplative and is called forest bathing in Japan. Reading can be contemplative. As with washing the dishes, there are many ways to do things mindfully, and many ways to get into a contemplative space, or rather to pause the non-contemplative parts of our mind and find the peace that is often under the surface, always. This is sometimes referred to as the blue sky analogy, which goes like this. A quiet mind, a peaceful mind, or a contemplative mind is like the blue sky during the day. It is ever present when the sun is out, or even the star-filled sky at night. It is always there when we look up. Unless there are clouds in the sky, then we cannot see the sky. We only see the clouds. Sometimes just one or two white fluffy clouds surrounded by the blue sky. Sometimes a whole bunch of clouds obscuring the sky altogether. And if that was the one moment you looked up in your life, you might think the sky was gray or white rather than blue. But the sky remains no matter how many clouds there are between us and it. Similarly, our contemplative selves, our more peaceful selves, are there under all the thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow. Let's take a moment to practice again a technique that focuses on that core human function, the breath. This is the thing that many practices focus on because it is one way we can self-regulate our body and help ourselves find calm. In fact, this technique is often used to help when people are experiencing anxiety or when people are extremely upset or even on the verge of hyperventilating. If someone can slow their breathing, their emotional state shifts too. It is called square or box breathing, and I invite you to try it with me now. Close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose while counting slowly to 4. Feel the air in your lungs. Hold your breath inside while slowly counting to 4 again. Try not to clamp your mouth or nose shut. Simply avoid inhaling or exhaling for 4 seconds. Then begin to slowly exhale for 4 seconds. Hold again whilst counting slowly to 4 in your mind. Repeat these steps as many times as needed. Pausing for 4 seconds, breathing in for 4 seconds, pausing for 4 seconds, then breathing out again for 4 seconds. Square breathing and the various other practices that exist are there to help us connect more often to that inner self that is always there, and to get better at clearing away the overcast when challenges present themselves. Meditation is one, but so is prayer. Both can be about listening as much as they are about reaching or beseeching. In fact, I think that both meditation and prayer get to their deeper purpose when they help us listen more instead of receiving something from outside of ourselves. As David Blanchard said in today's reading, I'd suggest that the most essential listening being is tuned in when such intentions fill our consciousness, and that person is ourselves. These sorts of intentions are about listening to our life. These sorts of intentions transform each of us by virtue of their fundamental and urgent honesty. As such, we could call them just about anything. The word doesn't matter much. What matters is the manner in which our encounter with the mystery motivates us to live and be in the world. So our prayers might be more a function of our listening attitude than an isolated act on bended knee. Prayer does not need to be complicated either. It can be simple gratitude, a noticing that we are breathing, an appreciation of what we are witnessing. Our chalice lighting words today hold this idea in the poem Praying by Mary Oliver. It doesn't have to be like the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot, or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but a doorway into thanks, and a silence in which another voice may speak. You do not need to choose one either. There is no rule saying that you must pick one forever. But all of them do take practice to feel their full impact, which is different than a habit. A habit is something that you do over and over again. I make coffee every morning without thinking about whether I even want it. I have a habit of not putting my dishes in the sink. Neither of them are very mindful in the moment. In fact, the opposite is true. I'm barely awake when I go through the steps to make a pot of coffee. They are routine and not reflected upon. To do something reflectively, contemplatively, is to do so with your whole self, to be thinking of just that thing happening now, that breath coming in, not even anticipating the next one, that sentence you are writing, the word you are forming, the current letter of that word. Another UU minister, Gary Kowalski, picks up a similar thread in listening with the heart. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all. Maybe it means just listening, unplugging the TV, turning off the computer, quieting the mental clatter and distractions. Maybe it means listening to the birds and the insects, the wind in the leaves, the creaking and groaning of the trees. Noticing who else is out there, not far away, but near by. Sitting so still we can hear our heartbeat. Watch our breath, the gentle whoosh of air, the funny noises from our own insides, marveling at the body we take so much for granted. Maybe it means listening to our dreams, paying more attention to what we really want from life, and less attention to all the nagging, scolding voices from our past. Or maybe it's about listening to each other, not thinking ahead to how we can answer or rebut or parry or advise or admonish, but actually being present to each other. Perhaps if we just sit quietly, we'll overhear a peace whispering through the centuries. That's missing from the clamor of the moment. Maybe prayer means listening to the silences between the words, noticing the negativity of space, the vast, undifferentiated, and nameless wonder that underlies it all. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all, but listening with the heart to the angel choirs all around us. Those who have ears, let them hear. What I think all of these voices are calling our attention to is that prayer and meditation, mindfulness and non anxiousness, equanimity and peace are not about the right words, the exact right ritual, or a single practice. It is about the way we show up to our experiences. It is about slowing down and having space to notice now, and that being enough. It isn't necessarily even about being religious in any traditional sense of the word. Instead, we are being asked to have a more attentive life, one in which we notice the world around us more, not less. I can see why this is often tied to religious values, though. If more people are attentive, I would argue that they are also more empathetic toward other human beings as well as to the environment and all the other life that exists around them. And those values are often at the core of religious teaching, even when we do not achieve them. Similarly, these things are at the core of ethics and philosophy too, as they are in humanistic traditions and secular statements in institutions like the United Nations. All of these spaces are trying to call our attention to the importance of noticing one another. When we can remember to notice our breath and our next step, and our next word, and our next action, we begin to be able to notice how what we do right now, this very moment, is all there ever is, and is the only thing we can decide. And all the right nows are what become history, and all the right nows are too often done in haste in order to get to the future that will never be unless we do the right thing right now. To close where we began with Thich Nhat Hanh, another quote of his: "We have a lamp inside us, the lamp of mindfulness, which we can light anytime. The oil of that lamp is our breathing, our steps, and our peaceful smile. Our practice is to light up the lamp."